For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Have you been wanting to lose weight and get healthy? Now is the perfect time to start Nutrisystem. Enjoy your favorite foods made healthier, delivered free to your door. Right now, you can get Uniquely Yours Ultimate, our most complete, foolproof plan, at an amazing price. Order today and save 50%, plus get an extra $40 off. Go to Nutrisystem.com/save and discover what millions of people already know. Nutrisystem works. Limitations apply. See website for full offer details.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wrestling Omakase. It is episode number 207. This week, I am very pleased to be joined by a first-time guest. Hello to Mr. Neil David.
Hello, thank you for having me, John. Really pleased to be here at last. I feel like I've been waiting to do this for years, and sort of time's never sort of married up, or I didn't know what I was going to be talking about. But yeah, I'm glad to be doing it.
Yeah, so I mean, for the behind-the-scenes look, I guess. Most of the time when I need a guest, it's kind of like I know the shows that we're going to be talking about, and then I usually go to the Slack first to see if anyone in the Slack wants to volunteer. And some people volunteer pretty often, some people never volunteer, so I'm never sure. It's like, is Neil not volunteering because he doesn't know some of these promotions, or is he not volunteering because he doesn't like me personally? You never really know.
It's much less exciting than that. It's usually that I've got a lot of work on, or real life has got in the way,
There's a couple people in the Voice Wrestling Slack who I would shit a brick if they volunteer, because I'd be like, I know that you hate me. I don't know what you're doing volunteering to appear on my podcast. You don't like me. I don't like you. I don't know why you're volunteering. But yes, it is kind of funny. But yeah, Neil David apparently does not dislike me, or not enough to not appear on Omakase. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, so the thing I like to do, I guess, usually when I get a first-time guest is ask them about their history with wrestling, and then specifically with the wrestling topics we're talking about, which today are New Japan and DDT, obviously. And if you want to give your background as a Voice of Wrestling writer, that'd be cool too. So anything you want to add there.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling's been a long-term thing for me, really, but a little bit on and off. I mean, coming from the UK, yeah, when I was a kid, in the mid-90s, you had to have Sky TV, and we didn't have any money, so I didn't have it. But there was a guy who lived on our street who didn't have any kids, so we could afford it, and he'd record things for me, and 5, 6 years old. And then the tapes just stopped one day, and I found out that my mum thought it was horrible and violent, and she didn't want me watching it anymore. So
my mom had the exact same reaction to it when I was a kid. Like when I first started watching WCW and stuff, and even I guess a little bit of Raw, in the mid-90s, she was not happy. She was like, "This is crap. Why are you watching this?" So
I
I
mean,
think it's a very mom thing.
yeah, but I feel like they made it really clear. You can't learn to fall off a 20-foot ladder. They made it crystal clear that you can't go out and copy all this stuff. But then I had sort of a dark period, and then just borrowing tapes from the library, and then just sort of as I got older and the internet came about, I was able to watch all these things that I'd read in magazines. I'd see pictures of people like Jushin Thunder Liger and be like, "Who the fuck is that?" I really want to know who that is, and then now I can. I can find out who these people are. And yeah, I mean, I started writing for Voices of Wrestling by reviewing RevPro. I noticed that Rich didn't have anyone reviewing RevPro, so I kind of sent a cheeky email and got in doing that. I don't really do that much anymore. I just kind of review whatever's going, and Rich is kind enough to publish my ramblings, really. And now you've been kind enough to let me on your podcast, so I think it's going pretty well.
So how'd you get into, I guess, New Japan DDT, the two topics there?
I think it was. It's years ago now. It was, I think, like a lot of people, like a lot of Western fans, it was a boredom with what I was seeing and realizing that the people that I enjoyed in American wrestling, the Daniel Bryans and the CM Punks and people like that, as sort of cliched as that might be, going on their Wikipedia page and finding out where they used to wrestle, and then watching a Ring of Honor and thinking that's exactly what I want, and then watching a Wrestle Kingdom and then realizing no, this is exactly what I want, and but then just sort of going back and kind of filling in the gaps of things that I missed.
What was like your first Wrestle Kingdom, if you remember? I always like to get that from
It
people.
was the one. I mean, I might be exposing myself here. This might seem like quite a late one. I think it was 9. It was the one where Tanahashi beat Okada, and
That's not that bad. I've heard people come on and been like 12. So
right. I mean, the embarrassing thing is that I've got Jeff Jarrett to thank, because that was the one that he got was it the international rights for?
yes,
And he did, yeah. So of all the people to thank for my current obsession, it's
yeah.
Jeff Jarrett.
9 comes up a lot, and because of being on American pay-per-view, that Nakamura Ibushi match was a really, really big deal that broke through. So that's a topic I always like to talk to people about, because it's like where people broke into New Japan, and usually Puro in general during this whole run is really interesting to me. Because a lot of people say, that Wrestle Kingdom 9. Obviously, a lot of people say the Wrestle Kingdom, I guess it would have been 11, where Kenny and Okada had that famous match.
Yeah.
A lot of people say 12 because of Jericho. So, it is very interesting to me. I mean, like when you get like a really out there answer, when someone's like, yeah, I really loved Dominion 2013 or something. It's like,
Yeah.
those are like funny ones. But yeah, Wrestle Kingdom 9 might be the most popular answer I've gotten, honestly. So you're definitely not alone there.
I mean, it's accessibility, isn't it? I mean, this was before, Google Drives, before, streaming things. It was just, there was always an awareness of it, but there was just the accessibility, grabbing random matches off Daily Motion and things isn't quite the same as having it presented to you properly on your TV. And, that's where the fandom comes, is when you can actually access it,
Yeah. Well, I broke in when I was definitely still like having to download, or not even download, like buy DVDs and rent tapes and stuff. So I definitely, I definitely never foresaw having like live shows like we have nowadays.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, I work with teenagers, and I feel like such an old man when I say it. But for them to have access to everything, and when I say everything, that's not like hyperbole. Like these kids have access to everything. I used to read about ECW in magazines when I was 14, and having absolutely no way of ever seeing it. I mean, this was a
Well, you
kid. I
don't
couldn't.
anymore now either. Thanks to Peacock.
Well, we're
Oh, you're
still
in the UK.
just
That's
about,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, we've got
Yeah.
it. I don't know for how much longer. We seem to have quite a few people on the Voices of Wrestling chat, and now like honorary members of the UK as well. Like a lot of people are now expats over here.
Yeah.
It seems like through VPNs and things.
That's
But
funny.
yeah,
I think they've discovered Australia is better for that because of the exchange rate. I think is
oh,
what
of
people
course,
understand.
yeah.
So now they're like fake Aussies instead of fake Brits.
Yeah, I mean, now we're all on the sort of the mad dash to watch every American wrestling show that's ever been made, before it gets taken away from us. It's just crazy to think that this company has the history of American wrestling, and it's where's it going to go? It's worrying,
Yeah. So there you go. That's Neil David's history here. That was fascinating. I always like to hear from new guests, like where they got into stuff and all that, because the answers are always different. Um, might be the happiest part of this episode, to be honest. I don't know what your opinions were of Sakura Genesis. I guess I'm going to find out in a second. This was like me hitting the wall today, this show. Like, I really, I don't know. I'm going to get into it more and more as we go, obviously. But, like, this might be a bit of a downer episode because, I mean, I was just talking about this in the Slack. But, like, if I didn't do this podcast, if I didn't have the Patreon now, which I'm going to have to plug in a second, like, you know, I'm being real with everybody. This would be where I'm, like, taking a break from wrestling. Because I have, you know, at least current wrestling. Because, man, am I not into anything going on right now. I mean, New Japan, you know, 2020, I know 2020 was a big drop for a lot of people. 2021 has been the drop for me. And I feel like where I'm hitting this wall now is with these clap crowds, which are like, I really like, when people were really bothered by them in 2020, right? I kind of forced myself to like them because, you know, first of all, I just felt like it was great to have New Japan back and great to have Japanese wrestling back after, you know, all that time off and no crowds at all. And second of all, my favorite wrestler, maybe of all time, was the current champion. So I had a very, like, you know, a very obvious reason to, like, make the best of it. But now, like, a guy who I don't like at all is the champion, obviously. And, you know, I'm happy for Will Ospreay's fans, I guess. But it's like, you know, I'm not trying to, like, fucking pick on the guy. He's never been a guy that I've liked that much. You know, even putting aside all the other shit with him, which, you know, I think has been done to death, even on this show lately. Like, just Will Ospreay in a vacuum as a pro wrestler, never one of my favorites, to say the least. Never a guy I've been that into. Weirdly, his ring work now kind of annoys me less as a heel than as a babyface, but these fucking promos of his, like, I cannot take his heel promos. I mean, they're so... They honestly sound like something a teenage edgelord would recite to his fucking mirror while he's thinking, I'm going to be champion someday. This is going to be my big promo. It's like, that's what he sounds like. He sounds like he's a 16-year-old talking to his fucking mirror. And I can't take it. It's really so fucking bad. It's one of these things where, like, when I read other people, like, when people praise Will Ospreay's wrestling, I get it. Okay? I understand why Joe Lanza, just throw a completely random name out, loves Will Ospreay's wrestling. Even if I don't love Will Ospreay's wrestling, I totally get why other people like it. When people praise Will Ospreay's promos, I feel like I'm watching something else. I feel like you're on Mars, or you're on the alternate universe Earth watching alternate universe Ospreay give these promos, because I have no idea how people can think his promos are good. The one at Sakura Genesis really wasn't that bad, but the ones on the Road 2 shows leading up to it were, like, some of the worst shit. Like, really made Kenny Omega's, like, fucking promos back in the day for New Japan look like Shakespeare. I really couldn't take. So the promos are really, like, really, really, really great on me. And considering the world champion is the guy who's going to be giving the longest promos, the biggest promos at the end of these shows, you know, the focus of the company, that to me really, you know, is a big downer. But yeah, but even beyond that, like, the clap crowds, I'm hitting a wall with them, and it's become, you know, like midway through last year, maybe you could have hope about when the clap crowds would end. But Japan's vaccine rollout is so bad, if people haven't been paying attention to that. I mean, they think, I saw a headline today that Jojo Remy actually posted in our Slack, that they're expecting to be done with old people, not the entire population, just people over 65. Cities expect to be done sometime between August and next March. Okay? That's how bad this vaccine rollout has been a disaster. It's been super fucking slow. It's been one of the worst in the world for, like, a, you know, rich, highly developed nation. So, like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't see any realistic way that we're getting rid of these clap crowds by the end of the year. It may not even be all that soon into 2022. It could slip to, like, who the fuck knows, depending on how this virus goes and, you know, how the rest of this vaccination program goes. I mean, we could be talking 2023 for all we know.
I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? It's nuts that how long... There's a phrase the government in the UK throw around that it's the new normal, and the novelty of the clap crowds has gone, and kind of the forgiveness of it's gone as well. Like, you used to be able to just go, well, okay, it's a clap crowd and it'll be over soon, but it's just gone on now so long and it's so drawn out that I don't even Now I have the opposite reaction that when I'm watching older wrestling and there's a crowd, that feels fresh and new and
Yeah.
exciting. It doesn't stand out to me anymore that there's no crowd there. And a lot of that intangible has just gone. And like you say, having no end in sight just makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah, I mean, it really, like, I do a lot of retro stuff for the Omakase Patreon, and that does not feel like a chore. It's like, oh, great, I can watch this really cool old match, hear people make noise in the building. But, like, these current shows just feel like more and more of a chore. And, it's even promotions like, I don't dislike what DDT is doing right now, for instance, or Noah or All Japan. I'm probably into all of them more than New Japan at the moment, but, like I waited a week to watch this DDT show. Like I just never had the urge to watch it until like I had to watch it for this podcast. And that's not on the wrestlers. That's on 100% on the crowd. And I just think these crowds, like I'm hitting a fucking wall with these crowds. And it doesn't mean this podcast is going anywhere. We're still going to do it. I'm pushing through it basically. But I am just like I'm so burnt out on these crowds. I really just like maybe we do more historical stuff again after a certain time or something. I don't know. I mean, the Patreon's about to go to the Champion Carnival, which I'm excited to be covering the Champion Carnival. I guess I'll get into the Patreon plug in a second. I don't want to go straight from everything sucks to, by the way, give me $5 to talk about
to talk about it.
Yeah, but the Champion Carnival, I'm like reasonably excited for. All Japan might be my favorite company at this point. I mean, that's something I thought I would never say at the start of the year, but they're handling the Total Eclipse tournament really good, and Jake Lee looks like he might finally get to push through here. Now, of course, watch fucking like Shuji Ishikawa book himself to win the Champion Carnival or something. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited for the Champion Carnival. I would say like about as excited as I can be about any crowd wrestling in 2021. But yeah, I mean that New Japan tour just looks endless already. That Dontaku tour, and then straight Grand Slam and straight into Dominion. And I will be picking and choosing from these Road 2 shows, I think. The days of me watching every Road 2 show have come to a close.
Same. Yeah, I'm absolutely the same. I think with things like the Cup and the Champion Carnival, that's going to be a slog and you can kind of prepare yourself for it. But also there's inbuilt consequences to everything. Everything feels meaningful. But just, Road to whatever the fuck, night 7, I'm the same as you. I'm just not going to do it to myself.
Like the crowds used to get me through those shows, like because Korakuen crowds especially were fucking fantastic.
Yeah, the fan club crowd.
Yeah, and it's just you can't. Obviously, it's not a thing anymore. So like I agree. The New Japan Cup was fun. I mean, I reviewed all that between here and the Patreon. The New Japan Cup was great. Really up until like the semifinals when it started going a little downhill for me. But like the first few rounds, especially, were really great. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it comes down to is like when there's consequences, when there's something for you to focus in on, in these tournaments. The tournaments are definitely the best part of, they're almost always one of the best parts of Puro anyway. But like the gap is huge during the current times when you can really focus in on a tournament and have that to hold your attention. Right now during non-tournament times, I mean, these tours are just fucking slogs, and it doesn't help that it's not even just New Japan doing this. Every company is running more shows than ever to make up for the fact that they can't, obviously can't have as many fans at individual show. So these cards, like no one runs super cards anymore. It feels like everybody runs these cards that are like 1 or 2 main event matches and then fucking 6 undercard matches. Noah for sure does a ton of that. All Japan kind of always did that even before COVID. DDT, I guess, does it the least, and they do run super cards still to some degree. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like this Sakura Genesis show we're about to get into. Like again, you're basically got 2 matches that matter, an X that like probably underwhelmed, and a whole lot of undercard tags are just a slog to get through. And it's a double slog when you're dealing with the clap crowds, obviously.
I have to say, though, I mean, you've kind of shown your hand there about the Genesis show. It's going to be interesting because I quite liked it. I quite enjoyed it.
Average show, I would say. I didn't hate it or anything, but like it definitely did not rock my world, I guess. And I didn't really have high expectations for it anyway, though, because it was a 2-match show anyway. But neither of those matches really blew me away. So that's what's going to happen when you have a 2-match show, I guess.
Yeah, you kind of bet in the house on one particular thing or two particular things, and if even one of them it doesn't meet expectations, you kind of souring your whole image of the show, really.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's not like 2021 New Japan hasn't been like a disaster or anything. It's just been a very up and down year where like there's a lot of shows. There's been shows I really loved, like, you know, both nights of Wrestle Kingdom were great. Castle Tech Night 2 was great. New Beginning in, I believe, Nagoya, the Shingo Tanahashi one, that was great. But then there's been like some shows that I think are far worse than anything from 2020, which both New Beginning and Hiroshima's were horrible. Castle Tech Night 1 was horrible.
Oh yeah, was that the one? I think I reviewed that one for the website, and it was the Bullet Club one where it was just, and that was the point where I really adjusted how I view New Japan, and I think I had to, rather than when there's a big show, sit down and think this is going to be good, more just kind of get what I can from it, like I just, if the bits that I like, and the bits that I don't like, I just kind of have to hand wave and like you said before, not really go to other promotions. I mean, I tend to sort of do all Japan in sort of big leaps, and I'm into the Jake Lee stuff. I'm into the top of the card Noah stuff. I'm into AEW, but I'm finding myself going back and watching older stuff nowadays more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's just like with New Japan. I mean, New Japan was like, I guess they were my favorite company in 2019 and 2020, and they definitely are in 2021. And there's really nothing filling that void for me, because I know for a lot of people, AEW is filling that void, but you know, American weekly TV wrestling is just never going to be connect with me on that level that Japanese wrestling connects with me on. And you know, some of the weekly TVs I watched were good. I always come away from the show feeling like it was really overhyped, but that may also just be that the wrestling style does not land with me. Like, I'm not a huge, you know, what AEW excels at is like spot fests and like plunder. And I'm really not a plunder person, other than like I like some death matches, but it's not my favorite kind of match at all. Plunder matches, and really, a lot of times it's one of my least favorite types of matches. And you know, that's what they excel at. And you know, the stuff I like, you know, is like a far more technical style, or far more, you know, like, I don't know, like suplexes and stuff, like very close to what we get in New Japan, or you know, even like like more technical wrestling style, or like you know, like Hideki Suzuki matches and stuff. Which that stuff is never gonna. I don't expect that stuff to be in AEW, obviously, but I'm just explaining like the wrestling style to me is like very much like PWG mixed with, you know, I don't know, old school WCW angles or something. It's never going to be my favorite. Yeah. It's just never going to be my favorite style of wrestling. So I get that other people love it. It's just, you know, it just doesn't land with me at that level. And then that Revolution pay-per-view was just like, you know, we reviewed that on here. That was not a good show.
No, it wasn't. No, it was. I mean, obviously, I don't need to sort of go over kind of lukewarm takes, but it was going to live and die on that ending, wasn't it? And it was just embarrassing. It was. There was no other word for it. And I think the fact that the ratings have dropped off, and I hesitate to talk about ratings because I'm not really a ratings guy, but the fact that they've dropped off fairly swiftly after that says a lot. You know, I wonder if a lot of the AEW stuff, and this is as an AEW fan, I do like it. I think there was a real hunger for a change and a real hunger for proper American wrestling on a larger scale, and they filled that void. And I think a lot of people forgive a lot because of that, because they like the company and they like what they're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I put myself in that camp as well. But I think there's a passion for the AEW thing that sometimes maybe clouds my judgment of what's actually in front of me, maybe.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think people obviously give them a pass on lots of stuff they would hold other companies' feet to the fire on. You know, especially like the run-ins and the interference, like I went over a lot in that when we reviewed the AEW pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, we don't have to turn this into AEW talk, but like, it was just, that's the company that I just bring it up because a lot of people have like filled that void with AEW, and it just doesn't do anything for me, really. Like, it's not something I ever feel the need to watch week to week. So I don't know.
It feels like a different void to me. It's a different hole that it fills. You know,
Yeah.
it's not the same as a New Japan. I mean, I like I say, I still really like New Japan, but I think that excitement has gone, and it's definitely a new era. I mean, it's a new belt, new era, and I mean, how do you follow the era that we had? You know, 2012 to What are people saying? 2018, 2019?
Well, I think people are saying like 20, right when Naito won the double belts,
Right.
basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you follow that? I mean, if somebody said to you that was the best wrestling has ever been, I don't know if I agree with them, but they're not crazy. It's in the
Yeah.
conversation. So it's the difficult second album, I think. And I agree with you that I don't think they're doing particularly well. And the juxtaposition of it as well with this show, I thought was a good show. But when you think of what this show would have been maybe 3 years ago, it's not in the same ballpark.
Yeah. And like, to me, my whole thing is it's not that I dislike New Japan, especially like I guess I would just say I like a lot of wrestlers on the New Japan roster. To me, they still have the best roster in all of wrestling, but I don't think they're being used particularly well. And I don't think the
Yeah,
booking has been
yeah,
good.
that's a big point that I've got on a few of these matches actually. That I think you, in my head, I found it really useful to separate the wrestler and the booking. And
Yeah.
like you say, the best roster. I mean, outside of the New York um,
No,
group who have
I'd still see.
everybody.
We had this debate in Discord. I would still put New Japan ahead because, like, if you could, we did this debate in the Voice Wrestling Discord. If I was going to tell you my top 10 New Japan guys, there's like maybe one or two guys in New York that I would like put in that top 10, and the rest of them would be, there's a lot of guys who would be in like the top in the mix of the top 20, but when the top 10 talents in New Japan to me are so good that I still think they have the strongest overall roster.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for quality over quantity
Yeah.
when it comes to things like this, and using what you've actually got in front of you as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's just so many guys in WWE who, I like at this point I'm done predicting who would and wouldn't excel because I would have guessed that Rusev would be great outside WWE, and I would not have thought much of Dean Ambrose. And John Moxley's been awesome, including in New
Yeah.
Japan, and fucking Miro isn't doing much for anybody. I don't think. I mean, maybe that's a bad week to say that because I think people love that arcade, whatever the fuck, but I didn't watch it, so I don't know. Maybe he was great in that, for all I know.
No, I've not seen
But
it yet either.
yeah. But let's get into the Sakura Genesis show. So this took place on today, Sunday, April 4th, at Ryogoku, an attendance of 4,484. I don't believe that's capacity for the half empty, even for the half empty building. I could be wrong on that. Let me see what the G1 was like, because that would give us a good idea. But yeah, I mean, either way, if it wasn't capacity, it was probably pretty close. But so you can't really make any hot. I mean, making attendance hot takes, during this anyway, I've always thought it's pretty stupid. So, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
let's
even
see.
outside of capacity, there's 1,000 reasons why somebody wouldn't attend a show with thousands of other people. At the
Yeah.
minute, it's impossible to sort of talk about with any credibility, I think.
I guess they increased it. Yeah, because the G1 finals did 2,928. So I guess they must have increased the capacity since then. Anyway, I saw more tickets on sale than I expected last time I looked, but maybe it was a sellout for all I know. The main event here was obviously for the IWGP World Heavyweight Title. Will Ospreay defeats Kota Ibushi in 30-13 with the Stormbreaker to become the second World Heavyweight Champion. One other thing I mentioned, I guess, before we get to the matches, Hiromu ran out at the start of the show with these noise
This was
makers.
great.
This
This
is
was
really
great.
good. His
Yeah.
arm is already out of the sling, which is really cool. And he seemed to just basically be like the warm-up guy, basically. He was going over the card, from what I could make out. And then he joined the Japanese commentary team for the rest of the night. And he was very energetic on commentary throughout the show, so that was a great addition. He said that fans would see him during this injury absence this time. So I guess he was being a man of his word here.
I mean, it's a great idea. I think I hate wacky, generally speaking. But he just, I mean, how can you watch that man bouncing around in his multicolour suit and just not be absolutely captivated by it? Him, if he does the Jim Smallman routine at the start of every show, I'm down for that, definitely.
He basically seems to be. I mean, he to me he's like the best at like wacky probably it's ever been because you honestly it never feels forced. Like it honestly comes off like this is just like his general persona. So that always helps a lot. But yeah, I mean he's just way too likable for people to be mad about that. I think. But yeah, so he was here for the rest of the night. Anyway, Ospreay beats Ibushi, like I said. So the match, it started out really slow in that New Japan, we're going really long main event way. I mean, honestly, for how slow the start of the match was, I kind of thought they were going to go even longer than 30 minutes. But they did end up going only 30, quote unquote. That's where we're at with these New Japan main events. But yeah, not much of anything really happened in the first 5 minutes. Kota did hit a nice Rana just after the 5-minute call, which sent Ospreay to the outside, and then he followed him out there with an equally nice slingshot plancha. So that was kind of cool. What wasn't cool was Ibushi's selling of Ospreay's pretty basic offense during his heel heat period just felt really like way too over the top for me. Like basically I'm talking about when Ospreay was giving like these chops to the chest and these like elbows and stuff that like, I don't know. Ospreay was hitting him with like a single chop to the chest and Kota was like thrashing about on the mat and like groaning like he was just shot. And it didn't feel like anything that was going on or had led to that earned that kind of selling. It just felt really corny. And Kota Ibushi is not usually a guy that like gets super corny to me with his selling, but I don't know. He felt off in this match in general to me. So, I don't know if it was the fact that he was losing and, maybe being fucking made to look like an idiot here, losing this new title on his first defense or what. But he felt really off in this match to me, like for a guy that usually does not have many off nights.
Yeah, I noticed that with the Murder Ibushi sort of period as well. He didn't really commit to it and it sort of fizzled out. And I mean, maybe that was a way to kind of get him out of losing. I mean, the fact that he lost anyway is kind of the fact that he was the only one who was advocating for this belt being like these two belts being sort of combined and put together as one, and then to lose it on his first defense just seems like a really weird choice to me.
Yeah.
They did, if they wanted to save the Will Ospreay match, it didn't have to be now. They could have easily have done something else. I mean, it just seemed like a really bizarre choice. I mean, I like the image at the end of him kind of crawling out on his hands and knees. I don't know if I necessarily noticed what you said about the selling, but I think it makes sense what you've said about just something seemed a little bit off about Ibushi, maybe something a little bit intangible. And it's interesting that you've said that because I couldn't sort of articulate it, but I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and like I was going to say that to the end, but I totally agree with you that to have this character basically want to do this thing that nobody else wants to do
in kayfabe as well. That's the crazy thing. Like these the two biggest stars of the company are in kayfabe saying it's a bad idea. It's insane to me.
Yeah, Okada and Naito both hated the idea. Tanahashi hinted he hated the idea. I mean, the only people who liked the idea were heels. Like there were a few heels that thought it was a good idea. Well, I'm like, what are we doing here? And like I assume a lot of that was like them going into business for themselves, where like they're like, well, I don't want to be tied to this thing. This thing, everybody hates this thing, and I hate it, so I'm just gonna fucking bury it. I'm not in the storyline anyway. But it really was bizarre. Like even in kayfabe, how unpopular this idea was, and the Japanese fans hated it. I really like searched far and wide for when they first announced this to try to find any Japanese fan who was positive about this, and just reading through the Japanese Twitter, and I could not find anybody. I mean, it was like universally buried and hated.
Yeah, I've seen
Japanese
nothing.
Twitter.
I've seen a couple of like, well, actually kind of ideas that I can just dismiss, but I just think it's a bad idea on almost every conceivable level. And I'm not even talking about what the belt looks like. I don't know if you kind of want to avoid that, getting into that. But thinking about what they used to have, and they didn't really have a main title and a secondary title. They had a main title and like a 1A and a 1B, and like you say, they've got all these big shows to do. They're going to, a few years ago when they started doing, they'd have the tour, and then there'd be one big show, then they started doing two big shows and then three big shows. And they had this perfect system set up to do that and to solve that problem, to have two major main events that, to use a cliche, would be a main event in any building. And now that's kind of gone. And I understand that belts are just props. Like I'm not, it's like anything. It's like interferences or ladders. I understand all that. But if you're going to change something, I think you've got to have a bit of justification in there. You've got to tell me what you're replacing it with. And what they've replaced it with is, as you say, Ibushi wanted it. And the only reason I can think that he wanted it is because he felt awkward carrying two belts.
We really could not do it. I thought, okay, he came in the ring on Tuesday at that last Road 2 show where they revealed the new belt. And you'd think, okay, buddy, it's your last fucking show having to carry these two belts around. Can you just get them both in the ring? And he almost dropped the Intercontinental title like 3 times just trying to get in the ring. And I was like, okay, this man, the only thing that makes sense is like, this man really cannot carry two belts. We have to unify them.
I mean, they are just belts as well at the end of the day, aren't they? It's not, I mean, I say that it happens, in my opinion, to be two of the best looking belts there's ever been.
Yeah, well, the heavyweight to me is the best belt.
Yeah.
I've ever seen a better wrestling belt than the heavyweight, was always, excuse me, was always going to almost choking to death on melon soda. It was always going to make following that one a hard act to follow, right? I mean,
and they soak up so much as well. I think it's not just the fact that they look. Yeah, I mean, I think in isolation, you're right that you can't follow it. But also, when I think of those belts, I don't think of it sat on an announcer's table. I think of it, like I was saying about Wrestle Kingdom 9, I think of it on Tanahashi's shoulder as he's yelling after Okada that he's a young boy and he should never have challenged him at the Dome. Or, the Intercontinental with Nakamura. Or actually, no, the image I have for the Intercontinental is Naito lifting it over his head and smashing it against the stairs, doing that run when he was like, I'm not fucking 1B, that run that he did. And I mean, Chris Charlton was desperate. Did you hear at the start? It's really confusing me now what they're doing with the lineage.
So I didn't listen. I
don't understand.
I didn't listen to the English commentary, so please explain. Tell me about Chris Charlton.
He really, I mean, he's a company man. He's doing his job. I'm not criticizing him for this, but he was really trying to make out like this is sort of a continual lineage. But from what I've understood, it's not a continual, like it's a new thing. That's the point of it. So I don't know really where we stand in terms of lineage. I mean, either way, I feel like it's sort of started again.
Yeah. So let me because this has been really confusing. People don't seem to understand. So there is no argument that they're not treating Kota Ibushi as the first champion of a new lineage, because if you look at the kanji above his name, it says first champion. I mean,
on the VT too, like they did the VT.
Yeah,
and it said
in English. Yeah, in English. So yeah, you're right. So like, even like the Japanese says it, the English says it. Like, there is no argument that this is not a new title lineage. What New Japan is trying to argue is that this belt is the heavyweight and the Intercontinental put together. So basically, Kota Ibushi and everyone else who wins this belt is also winning those two belts, which isn't totally unprecedented in Japanese wrestling. When they first formed the Triple Crown in All Japan in the late 80s, I mean, like, they really tried to argue that, like, all three of the individual belts were still part of this title, and winning the Triple Crown meant you won those titles. I mean, this was especially important, I think, for the PWF title, which was like All Japan's historical title going back many years already at that point. So, that makes sense. The problem with that comparison, though, is the Triple Crown, until very recently, until a few years ago, was all three belts. I mean, the guys were out with the three belts. So like, it was much easier to argue that, even though they did call it the same thing. They called it first champion, second champion. Like, I think it was Jumbo Tsuruta that unified them, and like, he was called the first Triple Crown champion. But like, it was much easier to argue that no, these champions are also winning the PWF title and the other ones too, when you could see those three belts physically. I mean, here they're unifying the titles, into one title, and then telling you they're still holding the heavyweight and Intercontinental. It's like, it really just rings super hollow. And it's the kind of thing where, like, you could. I mean, I made a joke tweet this past week that, like, this means that Hiroki Goto finally won.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, actually. I didn't see the tweet, but I saw it in the Slack. And I love that. That's the most Goto thing. That's the most Goto under a waterfall painting his body way to get a championship. That's fantastic. I love it.
And it's like, it's funny to think that Goto got this is now part of this world title lineage. But like, if you watch that video, there's some stupid champions who are in this lineage. I'm sorry. I mean, God bless MVP. But I should not be seeing him in this lineage when he comes out. I should not be seeing, Hiroki Goto without ever winning the belt. Bad Luck Fale, Michael Elgin, Masao Tanaka, who's a great wrestler, but like never was a main event level guy in New Japan. I mean, these like Tanaka and MVP really stand out because that was before they even started treating the Intercontinental as like even close to 1B. But even now, after that, there's guys. I mean, the full list of guys who held the Intercontinental but not the heavyweight. I mentioned a bunch of them already. You have some that that are totally fine in the world title lineage. Chris Jericho, for whatever you think of him now, and his opinions. I don't think anyone really complain that Chris Jericho's in a world title lineage. Minoru Suzuki is totally fine to have in there. But like there's, and then Goto, I guess, is it's fun to think of the fact that he made it into this lineage as a joke, but like. Yeah, I don't. It's just it is weird that that's how he, got in here. I feel like I'm forgetting. Oh, La Sombra, because he held the Intercontinental very briefly. Obviously, that's an Andrade for people who don't know. I think that's all of them. I don't think I missed any. Your silence tells me you're not gonna.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to correct you on that one. Yeah, that was a history lesson for me in parts as well. Yeah, I'm not going to correct you.
Let me see, because I have the tweet in front of me. I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting somebody. Oh god, people are like.
While you're finding that, actually, a little aside, one of the bits that I thought was really corny about this new belt as well. Did you see the way Red Shoes like really over-egged how heavy it was, as if he could feel the weight of the belt and two lineages. The weight of two lineages was just too heavy for him as he handed it over.
Really underselling it. Yeah, I mean MV. I think I went over all of them. There you go. So it was MVP Masato Tanaka, Goto, La Sombra, Fale, Elgin, Suzuki, Jericho. That's all the IC champions who never held the heavyweight. I mean, that is kind of it's crazy that it's that few when you think about it, and they really did, use this belt as a 1B. But yeah, I mean, there's some names there that really have no business in the heavyweight lineage. Like, I really shouldn't have to look at Michael Elgin's ugly ass mug before every fucking world title match now in these videos. But yeah, I mean, so the whole thing just, I don't know. The company has made their argument here. I just don't think most people buy it. It's a new belt. I mean, first champion, second champion, that's a new belt. And yes, it makes Kota Ibushi look like a massive dork to want to do this and demand these belts be unified and then fucking lose the thing on his first defense. And look, I would bet, like, if you ask right now what will happen, I bet he beats Ospreay to win this belt back. But like, it just still makes him look like an idiot. I mean, I'm sorry, it doesn't make him look that much better that he wins it back from him. He just, he should not have been put in this position to advocate for this unification that nobody wanted, and then immediately lose the thing on his first defense. It just makes him look like a moron. So,
what do you think of the actual belt? Like, what it actually looked like? Just ignore everything, the aesthetics.
Yeah, I think it was like I think it's a perfectly fine belt. I would say like 7.5 out of 10. I like it. It's replacing a 9 out of 10 and an 11. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, it's replacing two amazing belts, one of which is the best of all time. So yeah, I mean, it's in a vacuum. Do I really think it looks that much worse than a lot of titles? No, I think it looks fine. Pretty good actually. But like, I just don't think it's trying to follow an act you can't follow. So they just never should have done this. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess getting back to the match here. Ospreay at one point uses a cravat as a rest hold. That doesn't throw me either. And Ibushi was like pounding his fist into the mat to rally the crowd while he's like standing in this hold. Just looked pretty corny to me because it's like, I don't know. You don't see a lot of that in Japanese wrestling, the like pounding the mat to rally the crowd thing from a wrestler. That to me is more of an American wrestling thing in my mind. And like, it always comes down to like, why not just punch the guy instead of punching the mat to make them clap? Yeah, it is really, really, really weird. But yes, while I'm hitting on Ibushi, I guess, a guy I usually love, but I thought was really having a weird and kind of bad performance. He takes Ospreay's like normal handspring kick in one of the weirdest ways I've ever seen. This was like just after the 15-minute mark. It probably didn't help him that Ospreay barely made contact. So Kota was clearly expecting this kick to knock him backwards to some degree, and it really didn't. So, he basically has to leap back entirely under his own power, which already looks stupid. And then he makes this like very goofy face as he's going down. Just looked absolutely ridiculous. Probably the worst selling of that springboard kick I've ever seen. On the positive side, there was a really cool strike exchange that ended with a huge short arm lariat that Ospreay took this awesome flip bump for. That was like by far the best sequence of the match up to that point.
Yeah.
Ibushi then hit the sit out last ride for a near fall. He tried for the Kamen Goe. Ospreay countered by just like ramming his shoulder into Ibushi's gut. That was a pretty neat looking counter. The fight over the top rope, that maybe went on a little bit too long for me. It just kind of felt like that went on forever. Ibushi, it did have a cool ending where Ibushi tried to hit that springboard Rana with Ospreay sitting on the top turnbuckle, and Ospreay kind of blocked it, and then hit a shooting star press to Ibushi while he's hanging over the top rope. And then he hit a real shooting star press from the top rope for a near fall. That was a cool little sequence, but like it took a little too long to get up to that for me. Right after that, though, they had a major botch. And this, like, I understand that some people don't rate botches as much as I do when it comes to rating matches, but this is like, when you have a botch to this level on top of a match that I didn't think was really that good up to this point anyway, I do not get where people are going like 4.5 stars or higher on this match. So Ibushi, I guess Ibushi was supposed to catch Ospreay coming off the ropes from one of his handsprings and just couldn't. Like, he even tried to lift him back up into the same position, but just like fell to the ground clutching his back. I thought he was like seriously hurt for a second. He didn't seem to be because they got back up, but yeah, it just looked awful.
Yeah, I think the problem with it was, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm the same as you. Like, I'm not like a botch is kind of dependent for me. I think, like, in certain contexts it works, but it's all about how you cover for it. And the best way to cover for it is to just kind of roll with it. The second best way is to sort of do the move again. And
I hate that. I hate when they do the move again.
Definitely. I don't think it's good. But
Yeah.
here they kind of flip between the two. It's like they just weren't on the same page with covering for it. And there was just a moment of like the fourth wall was sort of there for a second. You know, like he just kind of exposed the match a little bit. And again, I'm not normally a botch guy. It doesn't really bother me that much. But this one did. This probably took a quarter star off for me for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, I usually don't. I usually do kind of hold botches against the wrestlers more than most people, I guess. But and this one was like particularly bad, I think. We get the 25-minute call. Ibushi sets Ospreay up on the top rope. I guess trying to move on to that botch from something spectacular. He tries a reverse Rana. Ospreay lands on his feet. He gives Ibushi one of his stupid edgelord stares that I guess is supposed to be cool. And then Ibushi makes his face back at him, and all of this looks so fucking stupid. This exact sequence was the kind of shit people, GIF or GIF, whatever the fuck it is, from major New Japan matches and make fun of. And honestly, rightfully so, because this looked so fucking stupid. I do not need the two of you having a fucking staring contest. I get it. You counter the move. Do something else. Hit him or something. You don't have to fucking like, oh, look at me. Kota. I have landed on my feet. Like, that was, to me, the soundtrack of this spot. When it was like, I don't want to watch this. I just want to watch you guys wrestle. I don't want to watch these fucking... it looks like you're in a fucking Zack Snyder movie or something. I just wrestle. And it just really didn't work at all. Kota finally breaks the sexual tension with a reverse Rana that sends Ospreay to the floor. And then he hits Ospreay with a Swan Dive German. Ospreay comes back with his standing Spanish fly. Not a particularly great one or anything. It was fine. And then he hits the Oz Cutter. Ibushi kicks out, of course, since that move never pins anyone now. Ospreay hits his new spinning hidden blade to the back of Kota's head. Goes for the Stormbreaker. Kota escapes. He hits a standing Kamigoe, followed by a second Kamigoe, but Ospreay kicks out too, because, again, that I think was also supposed to be surprising, but given how many people are kicking out the Kamigoe this lately, especially the first one, it really didn't surprise me at all. It felt too sudden to be the finish anyway. And then a much better near fall was Ospreay getting an inside cradle on Ibushi out of the Kamigoe. I kind of wish they just made that the finish, because like that was such a cool counter. And the ball, if you're going to have the guy win anyway, might as well fucking let him win the roll up. Why not? Because I love flash cradle finishes. But yeah, Kota just barely kicked out. Ibushi then Ospreay avoided the V trigger, the big V trigger sound knee that Kota does. Hit his hook super kick, and then hit a huge running high knee of his own. Sent Kota absolutely flying. That was really cool. And then followed up with the charge up hidden blade, just to get the 30-minute call. Then hits the Stormbreaker, and that's the clean pin. Ospreay wins the title. So this was by no means a bad match, but to me, the awesome finishing sequence, if anything, just really saved it for me. I can only go so high on it, though, given all the other weirdness and issues with I had. I mean, Kota seemed off in the first half, especially during Ospreay's heat period. They had a major botch to a degree you don't usually see in a big New Japan main event. and a lot of it just bored me. So, I mean, that's all it comes down to. So I went 3.5. I mean, by the end of it, it's a good match. The finishing sequence really saves it, but it's not close to 4-star plus level to me. Like the 4, I get where the 4 stars are coming from, like 4 flat, whatever, but the people going like 4.5, I just don't get it. But
I mean, I'm probably a 4.25. I think it's interesting what you said about, the slow. I mean, I put methodical. I think that's a bit in the eye of the beholder, but this is something I'm really into in Ospreay's work at the minute. Is I'm trying to think of a comparison for it, and the best one I can think of is like The Shining. Like how the horror is like really built up and really slow, and you know exactly what's going to come. Um, the best example from Ospreay is the New Japan Cup final. When he did the spot to Shingo to the outside, and you knew exactly the 450, and you knew exactly what he was going to do, and he really took his time to let the audience and let me kind of breathe in like this awful move that was going to come. And there was sort of little elements of that here with when he had him draped over the apron, and he did the double foot stomp to his neck outside. I mean, I do agree that the Poison Rana thing should have been cool. I think that's what's frustrating about it. I think if you'd have just looked at him and they'd looked at each other, I think it would have been okay. But like you say, that kind of the Matrix kind of come on, then let's go hand motion, it just kind of killed it a little bit. One spot I did really like though was that Ibushi roll into a huge suplex, like the strength and the control, as Kevin Kelly said, and the way he was able to roll through, like hook his arm under and lift it up. That's the Ibushi that I really like. And the German as well. I think they did the sort of the top rope German where he landed on his head,
right,
and if it was
dive.
Yeah, I mean, if it was any other wrestler, if it was any other than these two wrestlers, in fact, I would think that was a botch. But I really think when they were blocking this match out, that they decided, hey, I'm going to land. I'm just going to land on my head. That it's just that kind of insanity that they bring.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, I'm probably 4.25. I think it's interesting that Ospreay does have a few finishes now. I like that. I don't like the
Wait,
Kamigoye
you
now.
think he has a few finishers? I don't think he can
Yeah,
move anything except the Stormbreaker.
well, doesn't he finish with the hidden blade sometimes as well?
Maybe you're right. I don't know. I can't. Did he win with any? I felt like I watched the New Japan Cup and he won every match with the Stormbreaker, but I guess I could be wrong.
They've been selling something about his arm as well, haven't they? That he can't use the hidden blade as much because he's got an injured arm. I think I'm really into the way Ospreay moves around. He did the kind of the Marufuji kind of hook kick, and the way he was just kind of stalking him around him. And I think he's good at that anyway. And the huge knee that came after was killer.
The knee was really cool. I don't think I've ever seen him do that before.
Yeah, it was awesome. I really enjoyed that. I think he's working smarter. I think he's working a lot better than he ever has done. But as you said at the start, he's going to get the microphone and deliver a promo that to me, the one with this one was the Conor McGregor line. He said I'm going to apologize to absolutely, and it's just, it was embarrassing. I was embarrassed for him. I was embarrassed to be watching it. Compared to him standing in the ring with two belts on his shoulders saying God is dead and having a big long pause, like compare that to doing a Conor McGregor cosplay. I'll take that. I mean, I don't think he's Nietzsche. I don't think he's asking us to replace religion with culture or anything like that. I just think it was a cool line with two belts that look badass, and he just kind of ruins it afterwards. Oh, no, sorry, he didn't shout God is dead now. That was later on. He was saying, tell us now, tell me like I can't do this now. And that was a really cool little moment. But yeah, the Kamigoye is weird now, isn't it? It's like,
it's a new Bama.
I mean, has he hurt somebody and he doesn't? Because he used to really, really hit that.
Oh,
move.
you mean that he lands a lot softer now? Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I think so. Yeah,
I've noticed that a lot too. Yeah, it feels like he barely hits the guy with it now. So I don't know. Maybe he did fuck somebody up with it, and they told him he had to chill a little bit. I thought you were talking about the fact that it doesn't pay anybody now until like the fourth try.
Oh, that as well. Yeah.
To me, for that, it's like it's a new Bamaye, where Shinsuke had hit like 7 of them to win the fucking match. So I guess it's fitting for Kota, given that's his god and all. But I don't know. It's just not a match that connected with me on that level. But the finishing stretch was really cool and did save it to a degree. So it's not like it was a bad match or anything. But there was so much in this match where like Kota Ibushi just felt like he wasn't on his game, and I mean, it's hard to. I mean, nobody really knows why, but like, it wouldn't surprise me if it was because he's going out there like, great, you maybe unify these belts and I got to fucking lose it. It's just, I mean, I'd be thinking that if I was him. So I don't know who the fuck. That's probably playing too much amateur psychologist, but it is. The thought definitely ran through my head. Okay, before we get to the rest of Sakura Genesis, let me plug the Omakase Patreon, which I forgot to do earlier. We do have an ad to read this week, too, so we'll do that in a little bit. But first of all, the Omakase Patreon is at patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase. We've been doing our one-match episodes with patron-submitted matches. Most recently, we did a Bryan Danielson versus Low Ki match from Jersey All Pro Wrestling in 2002, match I'd never seen before, so that was really cool. We did a Progress match, which I'd also never seen before because not a huge Brit Rest guy, no offense to Neil. But I mean, I've never really.
I'm not a huge Brit Rest guy these days.
But yeah, the match I watched, I mean, the match that was sent in was incredible. It was Walter versus Timothy Thatcher from January 2018 in Progress, which, like, if I had watched that match at the time, I probably would have made my match of the year list that year. So you can hear me rave about that one on the Omakase Patreon. But yeah, we've been doing that. And upcoming now, we have the Champion Carnival. Basically, April is Champion Carnival month. So if you sign up now, patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase, you get a bonus episode this week, a Champion Carnival Finals Retro Roulette, where myself and the guest from last week, actually, Jerry Evans, will be talking about 5 random Champion Carnival Finals, which we got a great 5 that were picked out for us, honestly, by the randomizers. So, spreading multiple decades, like 4 decades, really. So, it'll be a lot of fun to talk about. And then we'll be talking about daily coverage of this year's Champion Carnival. Every show except for one that'll be on the free feed, but every other show will be exclusively on the Patreon. So if you want to hear my thoughts day by day as the Champion Carnival goes on, the only place to do it will be patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase, including the finals. So the finals will be on a weekday, so we'll be covering that on the Patreon. So again, patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase, only $5. You get our daily Champion Carnival audio. You get every other piece of audio we've ever done. Tons of historical content. Tons of stuff from when I actually liked wrestling. So you can hear me talk all about it. All the Tanahashi Okada matches in order. All the Naito Ishii matches in order if you want to relive the glory days of New Japan. So all that stuff is on there. So definitely check that out. Patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase. Okay, let's get into the semi-main event here for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. Roppongi 3K defeats Desperado and Kanemaru. Yo pins Kanemaru in 2048 with the direct drive, his new singles finisher, I guess, to become the new IWGP Junior Tag Team Champions. The first thing, obviously, is Roppongi 3K has a weird new piano theme song. What do you think of this, Neil? I don't know if I liked it or not. It's very good, obviously, but...
I mean, I like prog, I like King Crimson, I like, Tangerine Dream and unusual stuff. I'm not sure it works as somebody's wrestling theme.
Yeah.
Because I was sort of confused at the general presentation of Roppongi 3K. They've gone from being kind of the party boys to being really serious. And I like that, I think, but I'm not sure the match kind of led into that. Like, if you think you want Yo's big return and you want... I'll be honest, I thought they were going to do an angle. I really did. I was expecting an angle, and it was only when the match went longer than, when it sort of hit the 10-minute mark, and I realised that, actually, I think they're just going to do a match here.
Well, yeah, Yo's new outfit looked kind of heelish, right? It's like all black, just a little bit of white.
There was kind of like a separateness to them as well. Like, there was often, when Yo was doing the promo at the end, I thought Sho had left, but he was sort of hiding in the corner. They didn't seem like the cohesive group that they were before. I mean, this is like an age-old story, isn't it? With Roppongi 3K, they've outgrown the division. They sort of big. Sorry, I used the WWEism then. They've got, they're bigger than what they're doing. I'm not sure I would go in on Yo like they did. I think Sho is the clear star of the two. I think it was weird the way they presented, like Yo as he struggled in this match. Like they presented, like they really played up the injury, and it sort of felt a little bit counterproductive to me as the guy who was returning and is going to challenge for the
I
big
will
belt.
say,
With equipment breakdown coverage from American Family Insurance, you can protect all the things that keep your dream home running, from sudden mechanical or electrical issues. Because this sound shouldn't mean... Contact your local agent or visit amfam.com to learn more. American Family Insurance. Insure carefully. Dream fearlessly.
Refer to policy for equipment breakdown covered losses, deductible limitations, and exclusions. American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin. Products not available in every state.
they do that a lot, though, with the junior. Like when a guy's coming back, not just with juniors, but with any Japanese wrestler, in old times, the guy coming back gets pinned. Like, that's how they always used to do it.
Right.
Like when I first started watching Japanese wrestling, like if a guy was returning from injury, the idea is he's still weak from his injury and he's rusty, so he gets pinned. So, like, Kenta Kobashi, like stars at that level will get pinned in the return matches. So, that was really just the way it was done. Here it's like I thought they did a good job with working over Yo's leg, and I thought Yo did a good job selling it. But I guess the idea was that he was able to fight through and, get this like twisty double arm DDT thing on Kanemaru for the pin. I don't know if I like that or not. It was a weird finisher, but I don't know.
Suzuki Gun were great. Like the way, like you say, the way they tie, and that's the way they wrestle anyway, which I absolutely love. Like the way that Desperado was kind of taking a lot of that early offense, but then Kanemaru was kind of on the outside, just waiting for his opportunity to jump in and get a cheeky strike in, or do something on the outside. Like when I write about them a lot, I say they kind of wrestle like a pack of wolves. Like they're always waiting to just sort of pounce on you, and you never know where the strike's coming from. And like they're. Suzuki Gun are my favorite faction in the company. I think just the way they wrestle is really captivating. I thought it was.
They're my second favorite. I was going to say they're my second favorite to LAJ, so I love them too. But the one thing that I noticed during this match, and look, it's hard to have a lot of faith in New Japan booking at the moment. I think the most optimistic thing you can take away from this is maybe they're planting the seeds for a Roppongi 3K breakup in not that long to come, because they've acted. Yo was acting a little heelish. He was like choking Desperado with his boot in the corner. Sho did join in, but it took like a little bit before he did. And Yo had like a different energy, had like a different costume. And like you did mention, they didn't seem like they were like perfectly cohesive or like really like hanging out after the match or anything. So maybe the idea is they've grown apart now, and they are gonna do the breakup angle at some point. But that's obviously the most optimistic way of looking at it. They could just fucking team together the next half decade for all I know.
I think they will. It just stinks of repetition, doesn't it? Every Wrestle Kingdom we'd be thinking that something was going to happen, and it just never seems to. The only thing I thought would be kind of cool is that maybe if Yo beats Desperado and then shows the challenger, but then that means El Desperado loses the belt, which I'm not sure is a good idea. But what are they going to do in the junior tag division? Like what's the road for these champions now? Like who are they going to face?
Yeah, so overall I thought this was good but not great. It was mostly Yo selling the leg for most of the match before just hitting his new finisher out of nowhere. I did think his selling was quite good, so that's nice, but it just wasn't the most exciting or interesting match to me. And given how thin this card is, I just would have liked to see a better semi-main event than this. So I'll go 3.5. It was another good match, but just nothing I'm going to tell you have to run out and see.
Yeah, I'm the same. He was all right. He was fine. It was good. He was 3.5. It was good.
Match number 4 was Hiroshi Tanahashi and Satoshi Kojima defeating Jay White and Bad Luck Fale. Tanahashi pinning Fale in 10:05 with the high fly flow. So this was like one of two matches that were like, oh, we got to get through this one, huh? Because like this and match 2 because I wanted to see who X was going to be. It was kind of a letdown, but anyway. And this one was like, I just want to get to the title matches here. And it was like, yeah, we still have to watch this match. This was it was a match. It was perfectly fine. Jay White needing Gato to like grab Kojima's leg on the top rope to let him get an edge over the New Japan Dad. That sort of thing should not still be happening. But the end of the match was pretty good. Tanahashi and Kojima get a big double team flurry on Fale, and it leads to Tanahashi pinning him with the high fly flow. Kind of a surprising finish for Kojima right there, and also a weird way to build Jay White up as never challenger, but whatever, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I would say slightly above average at best, like 2 3/4. Just not much stood out about it to me until the finish with Tanahashi and Kojima double teaming Fale, which was a lot of fun. But that was really the only highlight.
Yeah, I think I'm just done with the Jay White Tanahashi thing. I'm not particular. I didn't like the cut match. I'm not particularly interested in it going. I kind of feel like the challenge should have happened by now. It feels like they're just spinning wheels. And Fale,
it did happen after the match, I guess. But
yeah, I feel like the match should have happened by now.
I see.
Like they're just dragging this out. I mean, my first thought was Fale's not a good fit for the spot, and it's like the match after intermission on a relatively throwaway tag match. So Fale just needs to go now, I think. And do you know, actually, what was interesting, we were talking before about the belts, is this was another moment where Chris Charlton was talking about Jay White's kind of motivation is that he wants the quadruple slam. He wants to have had like the 4 belts, which I just think, but the lineage has changed now. You know what I mean? I don't know if that, it was like another sort of moment of like, where it made me think, oh, okay. Like,
also, the U.S. belt has been stranded overseas for a year and a half, or over a year, I guess, at this point. So, like, really, are we even really counting it at this point? And it's just really bizarre.
Do you know, there's one thing that I'm sick of in these matches, and it's the waist lock reversal things, and it looks so bad. It looks like sort of. I can't even think of a comparison. It looks clunky and messy, and it's just a really strange, weird thing that they obsess over getting caught in. That I wish they'd just stop doing it.
Tanahashi afterwards puts Jay in the Texas Cloverleaf. Jay starts tapping, so I guess the idea is Cloverleaf versus the TTO. And Tanahashi gets the mic afterwards and says in English, he says he accepts Jay's challenge because he tapped out his Cloverleaf just now. Okay, that's interesting logic. I just submitted you, so now I will take your challenge.
Stretching the word challenge there, isn't it? If you could beat the guy.
He then says it's the JTO. That was actually kind of funny. And Jay, though, leaves a big grin on his face, of course, because he got the never title shot he wanted. So I'm sure he's going to say in the back that he tapped out on purpose just to get Tanahashi to accept his match. But there you go. Before I get to the second half of the card, I need to let you know that this week's episode of Wrestling Omakase is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. It's trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. We have an exclusive offer for Omakase listeners, 20% off and free shipping with the code Omakase at manscaped.com. So again, manscaped.com, 20% off, free shipping. That comes with the code Omakase at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Alrighty. Match number 3 is a 6-man tag team match with the Empire team of the Great Okan, Jeff Cobb, and Aaron Hanare, which I believe is just like his actual name, right?
I think so.
Is that just like his actual name? Which I was not expecting the new big heel to be some guy named Aaron, basically. But I guess that's fine. But yeah, so Aaron Hanare, he's the big new member here of the Empire. He gets the pin over Sonata and 951 with the Street of Rage.
Cool name.
Street of Rage. Okay. But yeah, this was the big reveal of X. I went through this in the Sakura Genesis preview that I did where, I said the 2 big possibilities were either Hanare or Shota Umino. And I forgot about Carl Fredericks. I guess he was in the running too, but it ended up being Hanare. And, the negative is it's fucking Hanare. I mean, this is a guy who we just saw doing 10,000 jobs, for the New Japan Army. It's a little bit underwhelming for a guy who Great Okan was hyping up as like, he's like, oh, he could be the biggest threat to me or Ospreay. Like, he might even surpass us both. It's like, okay, it's fucking Hinari. Like, come on. On the positive side, he looked pretty cool when he came out. I mean, the gear looked cool. I like the sunglasses for him. He looked like a badass, so that's all good. And it means, thank God, for us, anyone who listens to New Japan promos, like I usually watch the promos even when I don't watch the Road 2 shows, we will finally be spared from Hinare cutting the exact same fucking promo on literally every wrestling show he's ever appeared on. We're finally spared from Hinari going on and on for like 3 minutes about how he gives it his all for the fans and he's not going to give up and he's going to get better someday. I listened to him cut that exact promo for what felt like decades of my life. It was actually like 2 or 3 years. I mean, he never, like, the promo was exactly the same. Everyone's repetitive to a degree with these promos, but Toa Hinari's promos, and I'm not even blaming the guy because he didn't have much to work with. He lost every match. But, like, it was basically like listening to these Young Lion promos, but for like 3 straight years. And it was horrible. So, yeah, so finally get to say something else besides, I tried my best and I lost. So good for him. But, I don't know. What do you think of the big X reveal here?
Yeah, I mean, it was chalk. It wasn't sort of a big surprise. It was just, I mean, I saw something on Twitter that said, what if it's Kitamura? Which would have, like, once somebody said that to me, I just thought, no, everything else is going to be a letdown.
He was on a bodybuilding competition or something, I think.
Right. I mean, I'm going to use a phrase here, and I can almost feel people's eyes rolling when I say it, but I think Hinare deserves a little bit of something. And I don't think anybody deserves anything in wrestling. You get what you get, but I do think that he's, he never got the excursion. He's somebody who, got thrown in Rambos essentially, and he got over with me based on just being an interesting worker. I think he did a good job. I feel bad kind of hyper analyzing things because it is his first time out, and there is a lot of sort of time to get things sorted. I really liked the way he was throwing like huge haymakers and punches. It felt a little bit different. I did wonder about the knee at the start of the match. Actually, like he just seemed to miss a few sort of a few steps, and again, like I don't want to be hypercritical because I think generally overall it worked. And he didn't have the advantage. Like I wrote a lot because when I covered RevPro, I'd write a lot about Great Okan, and I really railed how badly he was doing that gimmick in RevPro. The napkin thing, and I think it's all having that time to practice and having that time to go on excursion basically really works. And Hinare's not had that. Really not a fan of his finisher, I have to say. Like he was basically a DVD with theatrics.
Yeah, it's like a fucking Death by Driver, except it's one of those moves where the actual lift has nothing to do with the actual move. Like he grabs the guy in a fisherman suplex position and like puts him up onto his shoulders and then just gives him a Death by Driver. It's like hooking the leg in a fisherman suplex has nothing to do with the move you delivered.
It has no bearing on the impact of the move whatsoever.
You may as well be like, look, I'm doing a Death by Driver while I whistle the fucking American national anthem before I do it. It's like it has just as much to do with the actual fucking move. Like just do a little like you can't see me with your hand or something. As much to do with the move. Like it just really, really was stupid. So yeah, that was definitely a negative. I like the theme song though. That
theme song's great. Yeah. I'm not sure about him being paired with. I mean, I'm super down on Sanada anyway, and pairing with him, it seems like that's the direction they're going in, and I could kind of do without that. I get that Sanada's not doing very much at the minute, and I'd rather he was doing that than being in the main event scene. But
the idea is that I guess they're going to pair them up because Naito, they're going to have LIJ versus United Empire all tour. Because Naito will have Okan and Shingo will have Shingo has Ospreay obviously.
It's quite a cool little.
We didn't mention that Ospreay called out Okada. Shingo came out instead, and it'll be Shingo and Ospreay at Dontaku, and then Okada gets the winner, which will presumably be at Yokohama. Maybe it'll be the Tokyo Dome. I don't know, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, so this was. I don't know. I thought Hinari in the ring looked pretty decent, other than the stupid finisher. And I thought this match was pretty good. I mean, I thought there's like some really fast paced stuff. Everybody just kind of like hitting their moves on each other one after another, which is the best kind of sequence you can get from these multi-man tags. And the finish is really cool with Cobb, catching Sonata coming off the ropes, looking for a springboard drop kick, hitting the Tour of the Islands on him as soon as he lands, and then he lets Sonata pick him up and hit his new finisher, which we already buried. But yeah,
I mean, heel Cobb's great. I really like heel Cobb. I always found him a bit like babyface Cobb was just a bit corny, felt a bit awkward, like he wasn't really comfortable, doing the eyebrow thing that he did. And whereas a man of that size, all he needs to do is walk to the ring with a scowl on his face, and it gets over so much more. And yeah, I'm really into Cobb at the minute. I think he's great.
He laid out Ibushi too at the end of the show, so maybe that'll be another match for the Dontaku Tour.
Oh, and the look on his face as well when he did it, like he had tears in his eyes. Like, that was. I'd love that moment of that shot of his face. That was fantastic.
But yeah, so afterwards, after the match is over, Hinari kept pounding on Sonata with punches. He and Cobb gave Shingo a double headbutt when he tried to save, and then Okan kept attacking Naito on the outside and tossed him in the ring where Cobb and Hinari could hold him. So Okan hit him repeatedly in the leg with a chair. So I don't know. Bushi was getting his nails done or something. I don't know what he was doing, but these three left LIJ laying, so they have to get help to the back, and I guess that'll be a big LIJ going for revenge on United Empire will be a big theme of the Dontaku Tour, I'm sure. The one thing about United Empire that remains interesting, at least, is it's nice to see a heel unit in this company who doesn't need a bunch of fucking run-ins or interference or even cheating really of any kind to win these matches or leave the babyfaces laying, because boy, do we have enough of that already. That is for sure.
It's just a nice slow little build as well, isn't it? Just a nice kind of, I know there's this big thing that people, really don't like what they're doing with Great Okan, but when you look at it, they just, they beat the old dads, the old guys. He got a win against Naito in the Cup when, a few days after the big match against Ibushi, and now they're on to that next level, facing off against LIJ in a feud. I think it's just a nice, steady build, a nice, steady story that I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, so this was quite fun. Easily the highlight of the undercard, I think, up to this point for sure. Everybody worked hard. I went like 3.25 stars, so pretty good. Match number 2, on the other hand, I did not think was pretty good. It was Okada, Toru Yano, Goto, Ishii, and Yoshihashi beating Evil, Kenta, Yujiro, Taiji, and Dick Togo. Yano pinned Togo in 11:37. I fucking hated this match. I don't know. I don't even really understand why I hated this so much, but there was that, like I said before, like that feeling like I just need to get through this to find out who the X was going to be, which, that was like one of the only 2 things in the show I was really interested in. And, there just was nothing to this match. Bullet Club worked over Yoshihashi with all the usual stuff. And then we kind of got like the same old bullshit with the spoilers choker on Yano. Yano low blowed Togo on Evil. He pulled a fucking hood out of his tights, which, first of all, why do you have a hood in your tights? He puts it over Dick Togo's head and rolls up Togo for the pin. Even on the standards of Yano and Bullet Club, that was a terrible finish. And
didn't he want to turn the lights out for Dick Togo? In the same, which, I mean, I'm not defending it. I'm not saying that's clever. I'm just saying that's what it is.
This was absolute junk. Almost nothing worthwhile here, outside of like maybe the opening minute with like Goto and Yoshihashi doing some double team moves. I gave this a half star. I fucking hated this.
Wow.
A really bad undercard tag. Both these units are staler than fucking day old bread at this point. And honestly, who could possibly care about Kenta stealing Yoshihashi's stupid walking stick back? Like, Yoshi almost got it back, but Kenta stole it back again. We just did this fucking angle on the New Beginning tour with the fucking Iron Fingers. Why are we doing another stolen item storyline in fucking New Japan in April?
They did it
am I going insane? Did we not all just live through this fucking Iron Fingers shit for a month and a half? That happened, right? I'm not going crazy.
That happened. Happened.
But so now it's just the case of a stolen stick. I'm really supposed to give a shit.
I tell you who wasn't bothered, which this is probably my favourite part of the match, is that when he stole the stick and Ishii, they're annoyed that they're offending the honour of Yoshihashi, and then Okada's just kind of like with his arms raised cheering to himself that he won the match, which I really liked.
Look, I don't say this often, but that is relatable content on the behalf of Okada.
I tell you about
not
Okada
off.
as well. That boy has not got a slip disc, has he? The way he was jumping around.
Yeah.
Like he worked me. I put in a review of his match about Shingo, how much I really enjoyed the way Shingo was able to work and protect his back. And the way he was jumping across the ring, I thought, you made a fucking idiot out of me, Okada.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard his back is like kind of fucked up, but definitely they over exaggerate the slip disc thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like this is if this feels like a waste of Kenta. I mean, that he's in this never 6-man bullshit, and I can't imagine anybody caring about this. Like, who fucking cares that Kenta stole a stick? Just doesn't fucking. I just can't imagine anyone caring. So really stupid feud, really stupid match. Okada and Evil, like this zombie feud that already ended, just staggering along because there's nothing else for them to do. Just yeah, horrible. Opening match was pretty good. This was the team of the Dangerous Techers and Doki defeating God and Jado. Zach pinning Tonga Loa in 10-10 with the European clutch. I thought this was a perfectly fine opener. We got the big brawl around ringside, which you could have set your watch to this match starting with that. And then Tonga and Zach had I thought a pretty damn fun power versus speed exchange with Zach like continually avoiding his bigger foe before he finally got squashed in the corner. And then he managed to escape a power bomb and, took him down to a cross arm breaker. I mean, these two were like the highlight of the last tag title match too. So, they weirdly like work really well together. Tonga Loa.
Yeah, they were great. I mean, that bit that you said where, Tonga Loa was kind of walking towards him like a T1000. And, I love Zach. Zach's probably, dare I say, my favourite wrestler. I think I think a lot of it is I'm from the north of England and we have Wigan and the Snake Pit nearby, and I like the fact he's doing that style, but not like it's not like a hokey callback either. It's like a respectful, and it's bringing it forward and innovating as well. And I thought Tango. I mean, he kind of had to be, didn't he? Because they were going to pin him, so they gave him a lot, but he worked with it really well. What I thought was nuts is that Tonga Loa's been in the company for 5 years.
Yeah,
I was surprised they mentioned that on commentary, and it kind of says a lot about the tag division that it feels like he's just doing the same old stuff. It feels like he's still waiting for something to happen. And I don't mean a singles push, obviously, that's nonsense. Just something to happen with the tag division would be cool.
I was in the building when I think they won the belts the first time. That was Invasion Attack 2016, which is the semi-main event where they beat Makabe and Hanma, which the entire crowd used as a bathroom break. Because they just got rid of intermission, and this was the semi-main before Naito Okada, so nobody wants to go to the bathroom during Naito Okada or smoke a cigarette or something. So everybody was like, "All right, here I go to the bathroom. Here I go to the balcony and smoke." It was like just mass exodus. So those poor guys never really had a chance. This match I thought was fine. Perfect, actually, decent, pretty good. Tama Tonga comes in with the Iron Fingers again. You'd think Taichi would learn to leave those in the back by now, against them at least. But Taichi gets them back, nails Tama with it. And then Tonga briefly gets a hold of them, but Zack is able to get him in a Japanese leg roll clutch from behind, or I guess European clutch, whatever, and pin him, which should obviously lead to an IWGP tag title shot during the upcoming Dontaku tour. So pretty fun opener, 3 stars. The Tonga Zack exchange in the middle was easily the highlight, which made up for the finish being a bit goofy. Afterwards, though, the best, maybe the highlight of the show, was Chairman Shingo Kobayashi taking the Iron Fingers away and leaving, which I was like, okay. First, just a picture of this very middle-aged or older Japanese man, this very quiet little man, grabbing these fingers like, no, these are mine now. Look at the fucking teacher in your class, like taking away the kid's shit, basically, is what it looked like. And then he leaves with them, and Taichi's repeatedly yelling Kaicho, which is like Japanese for president, and like just screaming at him to try to get him back. And Tama on the apron is almost as distraught as Taichi and is yelling, like insisting the fingers are his. He's like, "Where are you taking my fingers?" That was really funny. It does bear some questions though, such as 1, why can't the rest do that? Why does it have to come down to the fucking chairman of the company to come down and take these fingers away? And 2, why does Chairman Sugabayashi or anyone else care about the 10,000 other weapons carried around by people in this company? I mean, Doki's lead pipe and Jado's kendo stick were both right out there at the same time. The Dick Togo has been choking people to death to help Evil win matches. Gato has a pair of fucking brass knuckles. I could probably go on. It's like the Kaicho got to care about some of those too, doesn't he? Very bizarre. It's like, no, the iron fingers is where I draw the line. You can choke somebody to death. That's fine. Just very weird. But
I just hope it's permanent. I hope it's I can't do the bag thing again. Like the opening the bags. That's not for me.
So yeah, overall, Sakura Genesis. I thought this was it wasn't like these horrible shows like I talked about earlier. It was not Castle Attack Night 1 or New Beginning in Hiroshima. But it wasn't one of the better shows of the year either. It was like pretty average to, I would say leaning below average because, just because from a personal standpoint, I did not love the main event result, obviously. And, just, I don't know. I mean, I already went through the whole rant, I guess, about how I'm not really super into them right now. But we'll have to wait and see, I guess, what happens on the next few tours. We're recording this Sunday night, so we don't have, any future dates in front of us or anything. But, I guess I'll wait and see what the Dontaku tour looks like. I can't tell you I'm excited. If I told you I was super excited about the New Japan going forward, I would be lying to you. So that's where we are. Any other final thoughts, I guess, before we move on?
No, I think I liked it slightly more than you did. I think it's interesting to see the reaction to Will Ospreay getting it, as in there isn't one really, kind of on the British side of things. I think people have completely checked out on him now, and sort of the angle leading up to this match was the final nail in the coffin.
Oh yeah, he ran off a ton of people.
It's just a bit of a shame, that we've got an IWGP World Heavyweight Champion who is I've got to think about it then, who is British, and it's this should feel like a big moment. This should be somebody who I've been watching since the Lucha Britannia days. This should feel like a bigger moment, and because he's just a massive idiot. It isn't, is it? I mean, and I'm being diplomatic with that. I don't think that's as far as it goes. It's just a bit of a shame, really. I just wanted to make sure I made that clear.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're a Will Ospreay fan, I'm sure this was a great day for you, but I'm not. So, I mean, even putting aside the rest of it, all that stuff, he's not a guy that is one of my favorites. He's not a guy I was going to be excited to see win the title. And, it's just what it is. Okay, let's move over to DDT. They had their Korakuen last week, which we didn't do a normal show last week. We did the WrestleMania Retro Roulette over on the Patreon. So we're covering this here now. It is DDT's Judgment 2021, 24th anniversary from Korakuen Hall. March 28th, a 669 fans, I should say, which they're saying was the Super No Vacancy Full House. I guess that's how many tickets they put on sale. The main event of the evening was the KOD Openweight title. A very divisive match here. Jun Akiyama defeated Kashisada Higuchi with a running knee butt in 2110, his first defense of the title after winning it from Endo last month. I mean, look, where I come down this match is like, it's a match where I totally get where people critiquing it are coming from, but it was also a match where I read a lot of those critiques before I watched it, or read or listened in the case of Joe on the flagship. And when I actually watched the match, like, the critique going in was like, Akiyama worked on this guy's hand, his arm all this time, and when he actually came time for him to make his comeback, he did nothing but chops. He didn't sell the arm at all. And that to me felt so overblown. Like, when I actually watched it, it was like, there was like one sequence where he throws a bunch of chops and doesn't sell it. It's like maybe 5 seconds long. And everything else he does with his arm down the stretch of the match, I mean, he sells that arm and that hand every time he does anything. I mean, there's one sequence of rapid fire chops where he doesn't sell it. And that's, if you want to point at that, that's fair. I don't really have a problem with it because this match, like I said, was 20 minutes long, and Akiyama at that point had not worked on the hand, especially the hand, in quite a long time. He worked on the arm a little bit more recently, but the hand had been a long time. And, Higuchi sold it like throughout the match. He did a really good job selling it, I thought. I mean, he would do, he would like slap the hand to try to get the feeling back. He would be like, he couldn't get the full impact of it. There was even a moment where like he didn't have enough power in his right hand to hook the other hand on a sleeper hold. So he bit his own thumb to provide leverage instead of putting the hands together. I don't think I've ever seen that before in a match. That was so fucking cool. And that was, again, another example of him not being able to use the full power of the arm and the hand. And then down the stretch, when he's, the entire point of this working over the hand and the arm was because he had pinned this guy in like 3 minutes with the brain claw in the DO, and Akiyama had to do whatever he could to avoid it. He did sell that the brain claw was not as effective. I mean, that's what they were doing. The brain claw, he would go to put it on, he'd be like slapping the arm and like punching the arm and trying to get it going. And, Akiyama kept escaping. And then when he finally did get it, he couldn't keep him down this time. Also, I just realized, I said 2010. I think I'm pretty sure they have they're wrong. I think it was like 25 something. I don't know. Either way, maybe this was the 20-minute call, not the 25-minute call. But either way, the point is, by the time Akiyama got out of the brain claw for the last time, it really felt like his strategy paid off, and that's why he won the match. So yeah, I did not think they blew off the arm work at all. I think you could point to that one sequence where he throws a bunch of chops and say that was a problem. And I guess I wish he hadn't used that many chops in a row without selling the hand. That's fair. But I don't think it was like egregious. I've seen way more egregious matches with limb selling, like fucking completely blown off, that have been praised to the high heavens than this. I mean, there was that Okada Suzuki match where Suzuki like destroyed his leg for a half hour, and Okada leaped up and did a perfect drop kick. That was a million times worse. I mean, there was even like like Okada Omega matches, the ones, I believe either 2 out of 3 falls one or the 60-minute draw. They did a lot of leg work and they just completely blew it off after that. I mean, there's all sorts of examples that I thought were way worse than this. I mean, Higuchi was selling that arm all the way to the end. So, I don't really get that complaint at all, at least not to that degree. But yeah, I thought this was an awesome match. I went 4 1/4. The best match of these two shows for sure. I just thought like I said, the only complaints were maybe the actual handwork was a little dull at times. And I guess you could argue that if you wanted to drag a little bit, but I thought this was a really well-built match. And the Akiyama handwork played all the way into the end. Just with him having a hard time getting that brain claw that he won with the DO. And, it made total sense as Akiyama's strategy. So, yeah, this was awesome. Awesome first defense here for Akiyama. What do you think?
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, it's interesting what you're saying about the selling, and I'm not one of these guys that has a really clear idea on what good selling is. I think no selling or selling like death, it depends on the context. I don't think it's fair to say that he was no selling here. I mean, Akiyama killed that arm. He was wrenching it round post. He was stamping on it. There was the old locking a hold and having crawl for the rope stuff as well. I just thought that Higuchi's selling was just a little bit corny at times, and that was my criticism of the selling. But I wonder if it's because I'm the same as you. I saw the takes in the Slack chat and on the flagship podcast, and I do wonder if I was just a bit more focused on it because of that. And I think the bit that, because I thought the selling was a little bit corny, it was like there was moments where he seemed to forget and then instantly remember and kind of sell it like a kid who caught his arm in a door. And I thought it was a shame at the spot where he did the sumo thing and he did the sumo charge into the corner and he hit the arm that was injured, and that kind of led to the finish. And I just thought, because I didn't really believe the selling, I felt like it was pro wrestling selling and not that he'd hurt his arm. And I think that took a little bit of the kind of the juice out of it. But I still thought this was a great match. I mean, I went 4 stars on it. I thought it was really, really good. And I'm not a DDT guy. I parachute in and parachute out sort of as and when people recommend things. So I'm not au fait with the story as such. But, I thought it was really good. I love the bit with Higuchi just kind of booting Akiyama out the ring at the start with just complete disrespect, and I'm just thinking, that's Jude Akiyama you're doing that to, and, I think it was just 2 stoic lads having a battle, and that's the kind of wrestling I like. So, yeah, really good match.
So, I mean, the thing with the lack of respect, too, that was totally built in the story, too, where he just really doesn't think this guy should be KOD champion. That was when, at the end of the match, Akiyama made him put that belt on him, which, was like the payoff of that storyline. He then called out Danshoku Dino, which, thrilled non-DDT fans, I'm sure. But, it basically, that was based off of Dino's little feud with Akiyama's Junretsu mate Oishi earlier in the show, which I did not expect to lead to a main event angle. I mean, we'll go over that when we get to it. But I was like, oh, they actually, because Akiyama was like, you made Makoto Oishi do this. What was it, anal zombie thing? And it's like, so that was basically why he called him out. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, look, people are freaking out about this. It's going to happen next week. I mean, they booked this for a Korakuen, 2 weeks later. So it's not like this is some big big show main event or anything. And the DT fans are pretty excited for it, what I saw on Twitter. Like, even Joe said this on the flagship, the DT fans love him. And, there's definitely a huge fan base for Dino. So yeah, I mean, I think people are pretty pumped for that, like the Japanese fans. So that will happen in 2 weeks, or 2 weeks after this show. It'll happen next week, Akiyama versus Dino on the April 11th, April Fool Korakuen, which we are going to review on the next Omakase, by the way. So there you go. The next match was the semifinal, was Damnation against the 37 Kamina. I think they're saying San Nan Kamina, like really quickly saying Nani or Nana, I'm sorry, for 7. So I don't know. I think it's San Na Kamina. Could be San Nana Kamina. I just don't hear the second Na. But either way, it's Konosuke Takeshita, Yuki Ueno, Shuma Katsumata, and Mao defeating Daisuke Sasaki, Tetsuya Endo, Yuji Hino, and Mad Pauly. Takeshita pinned Pauly with the German suplex in 16:08. Interesting that he got the win here because he's taken a month-long break. So that was interesting that he got the pin. But yeah, I thought this was a good match. The Shuma was all fired up even as the Damnation team was being introduced. He was like fanning his towel at them and trying to throw forearms at Hino's chest, who reacted like he's being bit by a mosquito. Thought that was funny. And then Endo like grabbed him by the earlobe and tossed him out of the ring, which was pretty amusing. But yeah, Mao and Ueno also then tried to throw these forearms at his chest to similar effect. But Takeshita finally figured out that maybe you should elbow this guy in the head, which finally does have an effect as the bell rings. But yeah, Endo and Mao, they had a cool little exchange. Did devolve into feeling maybe a little too cute at times, in like almost like a US indie type of way. I mean, a little double nip up at the end was again, a little too cute for my personal taste. But then they cut Shuma off, worked him over for a while. We got all the kind of multi-man spots you'd expect. It took a triple team drop kick to put Hino down. And then we get the big group dive with everyone but except Ueno. The referee seemed to kind of make fun of him for not doing a dive, which I thought was pretty funny. But then we got the big exchange with the eternal rivals, Takeshita and Endo, including a huge short arm lariat from Takeshita that nearly killed him. This is where I kind of was thinking about how Endo's last KOD title reign, just ended in February to Akiyama with 252 days as champion. And yet, it's quite a long time. But he never matched up with Takeshita, so he's still never beaten Takeshita in a big KOD title match. Takeshita has a perfect 4-0 record against him in KOD openweight title matches. The last one was Take ending Endo's first KOD title reign back at Peter Pan 2019. And Endo has won only 4 of their 13 meetings overall. His first win was a number 1 contendership match for the KOD title in August 2014. His second was just a normal singles match in September 2016. And his third and fourth ones came in 2 straight years of DO, which for people who don't know, that's DDT's G1, basically. That was December 2018 and 2019. And that December 2019 one is their last singles meeting period. So we'll be interesting to see when the time comes. When will these two meet in a major KOD title match again? And can Endo finally beat him in one of them? Just maybe think about that when they were wrestling here. Takeshita actually managed to give Pauly the last ride. That was pretty impressive. And he ends up putting him away with a huge lariat and then a German suplex hold. This was, a little sloppy early on, but they really turned it around. Became quite awesome by the end. So I will split the difference and say 3.5 stars. Fun match.
Yeah, I'm similar. I thought it was fun. I think Damnation are cool. There's no fat on them. They're just baddies, aren't they? And the Takeshita Endo stuff was, like I say, just like solid action, wasn't it? I like the spots in the corner with the Damnation being naughty boys and piling on and wrestling like bullies and big men being big men. Yeah, good match.
Between matches 5 and 6, we got the announcement that Wrestle Peter Pan 2021, the big DDT show, will be outside this year. It will be on August 2nd at the Fujitsu Stadium Kawasaki, which is a soccer field built on the grounds of the former Kawasaki Stadium. Of course, it's a very famous baseball stadium with many legendary wrestling shows, usually with, from FMW. So that's kind of cool. I don't think anyone's ever run that before. There were some pre-show announcements, by the way. I forgot to mention them. Yuki Ueno's next Universal title defense was scheduled on the May 4th Korakuen. At the time, it was against a TBA challenger, but since then, it's been announced as Soma Takao from Damnation, who said Ueno was a weak champion. He only faces weak challengers, so he'll beat him. So there you go. We also got introduced to a new ring announcer, Ken Kato, who's a 44-year-old comedian. He was making jokes about being the new guy, but yet being older than the other two announcers. And then we had Shota and Yuna Manase coming out to hype the April 7th Gambare Korakuen. So if you're big into Gambare Pro, that's coming up in a few days. I don't know. I really don't know anyone who's big into Gambare Pro, honestly. And then the big news, Yusuke Okada officially signed with DDT. I think the news actually broke a few days before the show, but he did come out to do the opening call. And I think there was a lot of people wondering why he hadn't signed at that point, by then. And it was definitely, I think, a relief for people who are big DDT fans to see him sign after that amazing performance he had against Yuki Ueno last month, which was still my DDT match of the year and is in my overall top 10 match of the year list. There was also an awesome pre-show montage of all the prior KOD champions. I think all of them. I think they're all.
I was going to point that out, actually.
Yeah.
That was an interesting thing. Obviously, kind of with the conversations that are going on now about like belts and lineage. Obviously, I was aware of a lot of them, but I wasn't aware of like Ishikawa and people like that. And I just thought, maybe I should pay more attention to this, Like it was just considering what's happening in New Japan, I thought was an interesting point.
Well, yeah, Noah kind of did the same thing, so I think they're all subtweeting New Japan right now. But yeah,
so do they not normally do that? That was just for this show.
That was just for this show, yeah.
Right.
It was an awesome pre-show. It was set to My Chemical Romance's "Welcome to the Black Parade" of all things. Was it set? Did they play that in the Universe feed too? Because I watched on Samurai.
Yeah, that was on the Universe feed. Yeah,
I was just wondering, but it was a really cool promo. That song. Not that I'm a huge fucking My Chemical Romance fan or anything, but that song was like the intro song for the LA Kings, my favorite hockey team, the year they won the Stanley Cup in 2012 for the first time. So that song just had a weird positive vibe with me, I guess.
Yeah, it's just linked to that moment. That's cool.
Yeah. Match number 5 was Hiroshima beating Yukio Sakaguchi with the Somato in 603. This was the DDT 24th anniversary match. I kind of figured they might do something like this, like a really short match, but I still thought this was awesome anyway. I mean, they did like some really cool mat wrestling at the start. They end up on the floor where Hiroshima like sends him very violently into the apron, just fucking tossing him into it, and that sure looked like it sucked for Sakaguchi. And they do this really cool kick trading sequence back in the ring. They just both guys like delivering kick after kick, and then Yukio ends up hitting a punch to the body to put a stop to the sequence, which I did not expect that at all. And then Hiroshima, after selling that though, answers with his own body punch. And then they start trading slaps. Hiroshima seems to be getting the better of it, but then Sakaguchi comes back with a high kick and a running knee attack, and Hiroshima answers with his own leaping high kick, and then gets Somato out of nowhere as Sakaguchi hits the mat for the win. This might be too high for a 6-minute match, but I went 4 stars on this. I thought it was awesome. I thought pretty much everything about it was pretty much owned, and I would highly recommend watching it. So that sounds like a 4-star match to me.
Oh yeah, this was my favorite match of the show. I think the main event was the best match, but this is my favorite one. The kicks and then like Hiroshima kind of flexing his chest and puffing himself out and daring Sakaguchi to do one in return, and those little moments where like Sakaguchi just look intense, and he's got a cool look anyway, despite the kick pads with no boots, which I'm kind of with Joe Lanza on that one. It's a bit of a pet hate of mine. But yeah, the punches to the gut, and I like the fact it was a sudden ending. I like the fact it just it was just quick and violent and brutal, and you don't really get that very much anymore, unless it's kind of dressed in kind of fake MMA window dressing. I think there's no reason why we can't have like really quick, violent matches like this. And yeah, I thought it was really good. Really enjoyed it.
The fourth match on the show was the KOD 8-man tag team titles. Senshiro Takagi, Yukio Naya, Chikara, and Nabi Yakin defeating Shinya Aoki, Super Sasadango Machine, Antonio Honda, and Kazuki Hirata. Naya pinned Sasadango with the backdrop in 9:48. So Aoki, Sasadango, Honda, and Hirata, they fail on their V1, and Team Thoroughbred, more like Team Nepotism, if you ask me, they become the fourth KOD 8-man tag team champions, even though really they're only the second because this is used to be a 10-man title. But anyway, I don't know. This was the only thing on the show that just didn't really land with me at all. I don't care about Chikara. Don't care about any other guys in Takagi's weird, fucking we're all sons of somebody team. So the fail son team, really. It didn't even amuse me really in a comedy way or anything. It just wasn't a good wrestling match. Wasn't a good comedy match. Just kind of happened. Don't really have a ton to say about it.
Yeah, and it had one of my real pet hates in wrestling. When they do the clear out, the multi-man tag, and they clear everybody out, and the weakest clear out I think I've ever seen, which really bugs me. I think this is just not for me. Like the Star Wars theme tune with the two sweet sign into a nipple hold. I don't really get it. Like I just don't.
His Gun the Fox thing, which is I don't know. It's just, he tells a story about the fox every time when he's about to quit. It's a whole thing. Doesn't really matter though. Match was not that good.
And the punches in the group hug thing weren't snug.
Oh, I'm sorry. I lost audio on you there for a second. What did you say?
Oh no, sorry. It was just a snarky point about how the punches weren't snug in the group pile on at the end.
Match number 3 was Danshoku, Dino, Makoto Oishi, and Saki Akai beating Toru Washi, Akito, and Keigo Nakamura. Dino pinned Nakamura, the Gado clutch, I should say, in 9:16. Like it's Gaydo when it's Dino. So yeah, this comedy match I did enjoy because the storyline basically was like, and again, as always, huge thank you to DDT English Update at DDT_PRO_ENG. So Dino walks up to Makoto backstage, and they're like longtime friends. And he tells him, "Let me explain our new double team. I get in the corner, get my ass out," and he's like, blah, blah, blah. And the opponents become zombies. It's called the Analing Dead. And it's like the joke is he did not really explain. Like the English Update guy translated as boom, bang, bang. In other words, like he didn't really explain how this makes anybody a zombie. It just kind of happened. It just kind of happens, I guess. But Oishi is like, look, I joined Jinretsu, and I've been learning the ways of Jun Akiyama. I can't do that shit anymore. And, they start getting in a big argument, and Saki Akai walks up and is like, look, we got a match coming on. We just, like, work out your differences later. Let's go. But the basic idea was, like, Dino was still very upset from that exchange as he came out, and he was, like, bumping into Oishi on purpose, and then, like, standing in front of him when he's introduced and, like, doing his pose. Just very not being nice to him at all. But like, they like Oishi acts like he's like not gonna save Dino. But yeah, then Dino acts like he's not gonna save Oishi. I'm sorry. And he then delivers this like Saki Kai like slaps him in the face, and then like basically he delivers this long monologue and like decides to hit the ropes and then save him. Like I think he says that out loud. I'm gonna hit the ropes and save him. But unfortunately for him, Toru Washi was listening because he trips him up from the outside. So it's pretty funny. But Oishi finally makes the ropes himself anyway. And the two of them deliver a 3D out of nowhere. Then Dino does the get the tables thing, except it's actually like get ready for me to get my ass out, I guess. Because then they go straight into the ass quarter spot. Oishi still won't do it, but Owashi comes in and like basically him and Akito talk him into doing it. But then, he basically, Oishi like leads the crowd in chant of "We want asshole," which is quite the chant. But, of course, he's the one who ends up getting his head shoved up Dino's ass, of course. And then music, I think that's from The Exorcist, right? That's what my girlfriend said. Did you recognize the music?
I didn't recognize it. No, maybe.
That some spooky music starts playing, and then Oishi turns into a zombie. He staggers over in the opposite corner, and of course, also pulls his pants down. And Dino, meanwhile, just pins Nakamura with a Gato clutch to win the match. And he and Saki just leave Oishi there as they celebrate the way of the back, which was funny. And then Makoto Oishi sits up in the corner and I guess has been revived back to a normal person because we just go straight to our next match. So there you go. I enjoyed it for what it was.
It kind of reminds me of like 70s like British humour, you know, kind of like the smutty, like Mrs. Slocum is going to go and stroke her pussy and she's talking about a cat kind of thing. I don't know if like he's got the same kind of energy to me as that. I don't know. This is, to be honest, this is kind of why the mistake is I think DDT, and this is what I think of when actually this show's kind of taught me that maybe I should be thinking more like the main event, you know, because they are great matches. But yeah, it was what it was. It's skippable.
Match number 2 was Soma Takao beating Hideki Okatani with the Gin and Tonic in 6:19. So this was Okatani put up a decent fight. Soma, ended up putting him down with his big elbow, pulled him up in 2, and then gave him the Gin and Tonic for the pin. Good little young boy versus veteran match. I would go 3 stars. Okatani showed good fire here.
Yeah, that was cool. It's kind of like now there's this inversion, isn't there? Like when somebody lifts the head up and doesn't get the pin, you kind of expecting like a big comeback, and here he just like dropped him on his head and pinned him. Yeah, that was really cool.
And it made sense too because he's going to get the big title shot now. So logical booking. Match number 1: Yusuke Okada and Yuji Ino beat Chris Brooks and Tori Kojima. Okada submitted Kojima with a crab hold in 10:51. First of all, I love Yuki Ino's "Keep Calm and Sexy Wrestling" t-shirt. It's like the perfect Japanglish shirt, It's like, what does that even mean? Calm and Sexy Wrestling. But it's great. This was a really fun opener. All action. Kind of surprisingly long to me. I mean, it only went under 11 minutes, but it felt long, even longer, but not in a bad way. Just like, it was all action. Everybody looked good. Especially the rookies. The rookie Kojima I thought looked really good, and Okada continues to look awesome, which he has looked since he first came to DDT at the start of the year. But yeah, so Okada ended up tapping out Kojima. I went 3.5 on this. I really enjoyed it. I thought this was just a really strong opener.
Yeah, it was just really cleverly put together, like not in an innovative way or an exciting way. Just things like Kojima. Like he couldn't lift up the big guy at the start, but then he could at the end once he powered up, and he went for a crossbody and got it and got so excited and carried away that he went for it again. But the veteran moved out of the way. Just little things like that. It was just a really good match. And Chris Brooks, I mean, Chris Brooks, I've got a real kind of thing against him now. It's getting a bit. I need to kind of have a word with myself and drop it because I spent a lot of time really not enjoying Chris Brooks at all.
I've heard from people who watch a lot more BritRes than me and then also watch a lot of DDT that he was way worse in Britain than DDT for some reason.
I think part of the problem was that he kind of came up when BritRes was starting to die. People had been signed and Progress had made the dirty deal and all that business. So he was everywhere and he was on every show, and it felt like he would always have these moments where he'd go, "Oh no, I am a wrestler," and then do like a technical wrestling move that he couldn't quite pull off. But then for some reason, people still really loved him. And then he was doing Manchester, where I'm from. He was doing Schadenfreude shows that were just these really bizarre. Like they'd advertise the fact that one of the matches was an actual wrestling match. Like that was one of the selling points. It was like a gimmick. Like they reversed the gimmick. The gimmick was that this match was a wrestling match. We just have different philosophies, about pro wrestling, I think. But yeah, I thought he was fine here. I thought this was a really good match. Yeah, 3.25 probably. I enjoyed it.
So there you go. That's the Judgment show. Definitely much preferred to the other show we talked about. I thought it was a really good main event, and then the undercard had lots of strong stuff on it. So this ended up being a show I enjoyed even more than I thought I would on paper. So.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. I think it's something that it's given me a bit of a kick up the arse with DDT, certainly, because it's, they're one of them promotions that due to time I don't really keep up with. I just sort of drop in and out for big matches when people recommend them. But I think, if you've got Wrestle Universe anyway, I think it's something I'm going to make a bit more effort with.
So let's quickly go over the card for next week's Korakuen, which I mentioned we'll talk about here on Omakase. So it is DDT April Fool 2021. April 11th from Korakuen Hall. First of all, we have an undermatch with the two rookies, Hideki Okatani versus Tori Kojima. The opener, Chris Brooks, Saki Akai, Yuki Ino, and Yuki Onaya taking on Makoto Oishi, Akito, Kazuki Hirata, and Keiko Nakamura. Pretty standard opener there. Then we have our continuation of this unit feud. Daisuke Sasaki, Soma Takao, and Yuji Hino takes on Yuki Ueno, Shuma Katsumata, and Mao. Also, obviously, a hype match for Soma and Ueno's upcoming Universal title match. Then another DDT rookie debuting. It seems like they have a ton of rookies lately. So this is Yuya Koroko making his debut. He'll take on Yusuke Okada, which, hell of a guy to debut against because Okada's been on fire, like I mentioned. Then match number 4, the Gorgeous Matsuno pre-60th birthday commemorative match. Gorgeous Matsuno, Toru Owashi, and Antonio Honda versus Tetsuya Endo, Mad Paulie, and Nobuhiro Shimatani. Match number 5, KOD Tag Team titles. Kasada Higuchi and Yukio Sakaguchi defend them against Harashima and Yuji Okabayashi, of course coming in from Big Japan. And the main event, KOD Openweight title, Jun Akiyama versus Danshoku Dino. So, some cool stuff on that card. Definitely not as big a card as Judgment here was, being the anniversary show and all. But there you go. Definitely some stuff I'm excited to talk about. Tag title match could be really good. So we'll have to wait and see. Excuse me. And I also want to say thank you to Jamie and Dramatic DDT, who dramaticddt.wordpress.com for the cards. Always a great resource. So that's your next DDT show. All right, we can wrap things up here. I guess before I get into next week's episode, anything you want to plug?
I'm exclusive to Voices of Wrestling, so if you go onto there and you can see my writing, this is the first podcast I've ever done, actually, so I tend to stick to the written word.
I have to say you did a really good job for your first podcast ever.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm telling fibs, actually. I did a WrestleMania preview with Rich about 3 years ago, but it was buried in like hour 15, and it was about RevPro. So I don't know what the listeners were, but I don't think it was very many. So I'm counting this as my first one. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming on. All right, folks. So as always, Wrestling Omakase can be found on Patreon, patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase. Again, our Champion Carnival coverage kicks off on the Patreon this week. I believe it's Friday. Yes, so this week, Friday, April 9th and Saturday, April 10th, exclusive to the Patreon. So definitely check that out. And we'll have a Champion Carnival Retro Roulette episode probably on Wednesday. So again, lots of stuff coming up this week on the Patreon. Only $5 for all of it. Patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase. Next week here on the free feed, I'll be joined by returning guest Paul Vosch. Paul and I will be talking about that DDT April 11th Korakuen I just went over, and the All Japan Champion Carnival Night 3, also from April 11th. And that will be the only Champion Carnival night we discuss on the free feed. So tune in for that. We might talk a little WrestleMania too. I don't know, because I think I am going to watch at least the first night on Saturday just to see what the fuck fans are going to react like now that they're back after all these months of Thunderdome exclusive, whatever the fuck. I am kind of curious, but I don't know if Paul's going to watch it, so I have no idea.
I can't see him watching it. I think
I doubt to skip
it. Yeah.
But
I think he'll skip it and make a big deal of the fact that he skipped it. I think that's
shots fired by Neil Davis.
Oh no, in a good way. I think it's a positive way. I'm the same. I'm going to watch it. The only reason I'm going to watch it is so I understand the memes.
There you go. So, folks, I think I'm committing to watching one night. I'm not committing to both nights because I think that sounds excessive. Excessive amounts of WWE, honestly. Thank you for listening. Of course. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/WrestleOmakase. Wrestling wouldn't fit. Don't know why I said the twitter.com part. I usually don't do that. But in the meantime, like I said, thank you as always for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Look around you. That car you're driving, that house your family lives in, making your daughter laugh, inspiring her to dream. You did that. Teaching your son to drive, teaching him he can be anything, all you. And your dreams for tomorrow, you'll do that too. Legacies don't just happen, they are made by you. The important word being you. American Family Insurance, protecting your dreams as you achieve them. Insure carefully, dream fearlessly.
Products not available in every state. American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating companies, American Family Life Insurance Company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.